We've mentioned web parts a couple of times throughout the first few videos in this series, and since we're going to be using this terminology quite a bit from here on out, I wanted to explain what web parts are and why they're so important to SharePoint. A web part is simply a reusable component of functionality which cannot live on its own but must live on a page. In fact, several web parts can reside on a single page, as we see in the case of our site's homepage. Here we see 4 web parts: announcements, calendar, site image, and a link web part. Each web part can be configured independently and are typically aggregated listings of information that is more fully displayed in a secondary page. For example, on the home page, we can see an abbreviated synopsis of each announcement as indicated by the little ellipsis after so many words have been displayed for that given announcement. If we were to click on the heading for any of the given announcements, we'd be able to see the entire announcement or story. And this is indicative of the purpose for web parts. They're typically aggregations or brief overviews of information that you can use to navigate through and learn more. So it's an easy way to scan through and find all the types of information that you might be interested in or that might be important to you. So as you can see, whenever I'm logged in as a team site owner and I go to Site Actions, I have the ability to edit a page. This menu option becomes available, and this will put the current page into edit mode. I can now see a new view of all the content on the page, including a left and a right column designation. These are called web part zones, and they're simply areas where I can add new web parts. Within each web part zone, you can see that there are a number of individual web parts. Now suppose I wanted to add a list of tasks into this larger left-hand column. I could click on the Add a Web Part button here at the top of the zone, and from the dialog I'll select Tasks and click Add. And now you can see I have a Tasks web part. I can reorder the web part, so just by clicking on the title and holding down, you can see that I get this little bar which shows me where it'll be inserted on the page. So I could, for example, move the calendar above the announcements area if I wanted to do so. I can also configure each web part by selecting the little Edit, Modify Shared Web Part menu option, which allows me to see the Edit Web Part property dialog over here on the right-hand side. Each of the properties are split up into sections, so you can see that, for example, I have an appearance section, a layout section, and so on. And as far as the appearance is concerned, I can change the title if I wanted to important tasks. I can change the height and the width. I can change the chrome or the area around that. I can change the type of information that's displayed as well, and several other options. Each web part might have a few properties that it has in common with other web parts, but usually has its own unique set of properties that are relevant to the type of information that it's displaying and gathering. When I'm finished editing a web part, I can click OK to save my changes or cancel. I'm just going to click cancel for now. This will take us out of the property editor. And right now you can see that I'm currently editing the shared version of this page. Simply put, I'm editing the version of the page which everybody can see. You recall that there's also the ability that we talked about in the first video or the second video about the ability to personalize the page so that you can make changes that only you see whenever you come, and it also allows you to add web parts and put information that you have access to on the given page. But when I'm finished editing a page, all I need to do is select Exit Edit Mode. Now you typically need to have full control or design privilege level to modify web parts on a page that will be shared by all users. The contribute privilege level also has the ability to work with web parts, but just like we spoke about a moment ago, it's usually only for their own private version of the page. But they also have some limited capability to modify certain properties of web parts. Really, it depends on a case-by-case basis. There are a number of standard web parts that come pre-installed with Windows SharePoint Services 3.0. There are more web parts available with Microsoft Office SharePoint Server 2007, and still there are more third-party web parts available from dozens of vendors performing many different vertical business-specific functions. And finally, ASP.NET software developers can easily build additional company-specific web parts to provide roll-up views of important business information as a front end to other administrative or reporting sites. We'll talk about web part development in our SharePoint 401 series. Now in the next video, we'll start looking at the various types of websites that you can create using the default templates provided by Microsoft when Windows SharePoint Services was installed within your organization.
You're watching another great instructional video from Trainingspot.com, your IT training destination.